Fool that I was to not know my fans. I recently asked, what kind of belated Pulse video would you be most interested in? Crash Bandicoot, Castlevania Order of Ecclesia, Devil May Cry, or Ender Lilies? Order of Ecclesia and Ender Lilies knocked it out of the park, especially Shanoa's game. They just clean broke away from everything else. I don't think Crash got more than even 2 votes or whatever, and I was like, oh yeah, y'all chose to follow me of all people. You didn't come here for rude guy games, you came here for sad girl games. So I'm finally here making good on my promise to some of the extent, because oh my god, I've already talked about it, time to put it to rest. Ender Lilies and Order of Ecclesia are ridiculously emotionally rich games. They are handcrafted. Every little thing is just like a balm for your cynicism, a balm for your burnout. Unless you have way overcommitted your 2024 and you're literally running out of emotional energy to give to games and you literally don't have time in your soul for them. That was me. I really overstretched myself by trying to pick these up, and when each one deserves so much time and so much space, and oh my god, it was so bad. They were the straw that broke my camel's back. I was firmly burned out at that point. But at the same time, I'm rising from the ashes with 2 really good games here. They're like filet mignon. They're dripping with flavor. They were cooked so carefully, and you have to savor them. So here I am, months later, finally processing it. I have a good deal more digestion that I have to do with Order of Ecclesia before I can make a proper gold medal worthy video, but I felt like tonight might be a good time to finally talk about the littler of these games. Welcome to the Ender series. It's really dismal here. I have never even played a Dark Souls game, but holy crap, I can point it out when I see it. I know it when I taste it. This is a miserable game. There's like some kind of death rain or something, and everybody's dying and turning into zombie monsters, and you're the last like priestess of some kind of religious cult or church that's supposed to like clearly have a big purpose in making people not sad, and it seems like you're gonna get pretty sad along the way if you do that. This game rules, but it is obviously very heavy, but I really dig the way that it's sad. It's so gentle. I think, before I get into the game mechanics, the first thing is, back when this game came on the scene, I saw like VTubers playing it back in 2021, and I was aware of it because I was just at that time coming to have the first kernel of a maybe someday vision for this channel. So I was getting a pulse on a lot of different Metroidvanias, just keeping tabs on them, and I didn't think I was interested in this one for a couple reasons, but I remember it. I remembered it many years later, and I think a big part of that is Lily. I believe she's called Lily. I call her Lily, the protagonist. She is a really good, memorable protagonist because her design is really nice. Her design is very kind of sleek, and, she's a little girl. Congrats, like, you designed a small child that looks very innocent. But it goes so deep because she is just like the whitest thing in this whole world. Everything is black and gray, and your character is so different. She's so bright, and that just, it makes it so, there's not a second of the game that goes by where you're not thinking about her place in the narrative. You kind of stand out. Also, everything is either an adult corpse or a rotting dog, and you're like a 7-year-old girl, so you feel so at odds with your surroundings, but that's kind of the point. I feel like my metaphor for this game is, it feels like I'm walking with bare feet through the muck. Like I'm walking through some gross, gritty November afternoon in New England where the leaf litter is turning to gray sludge, and it's cloudy out. There's like just a little bit of rain. The trees are all dead, and I'm just walking in my bare feet, and I can feel everything. I can feel the goopy, gicky grossiness. I can feel the dirt. I can feel the rocks. It's touching me. Like, I'm not calloused. I'm not an animal. I'm not a beast. I'm just like a little person. But at the same time, like, I'm doing it also gently. You know, I'm doing it with such a pure heart. And that's kind of the crux of this game. It's dismal, but it's so gentle. And everything just kind of starts from there. So I think a second layer to the protagonist is you're very small and defenseless, but a lot of people want to protect you. And by people, I mean ghosts or something. There's like this spirit system where you gather followers and you summon them to do the battle. And it's actually really charming. So you're summoning everything, you're not fighting on your own. But, like, she's no Maria. when Lily dives or something like that, like when you do, like, your dive move, she looks so pathetic. Like, she has no energy. She's just kind of this, like, very, what's the word? Languid? Is languid the word? I don't know. Somebody Google that for me. She's this very just small, energyless little creature, and she summons things to fight for her. And in all the animations, you can see that she like winces away from the sword attacks and that sort of thing. But the mechanical side of that is all of your combat is a little bit disjointed. And when I first played Yohane, the Love Live Metroidvania, you know the one. The summons kind of threw me off at first because I had seen this Ender Lilies gameplay years ago, and I thought, I don't think that's for me. It just seemed like, how could you possibly feel like you're in the combat if you're summoning everything? But as you can tell from the first soul, who's just a sword guy, it's pretty easy to feel like you're one with your summons. You know, it really clicks. And your second one, you set down and she doesn't move with you or anything. She's like a big heavy ball and chain. But immediately, once you're comboing with those initial souls, it just kind of works, you know? Some of them feel like you're casting a spell. Some of them feel like you're slashing a weapon. Some of them feel like you're setting a turret or something. But in the end, like, I don't feel that disconnect. I do feel like I'm in the action. And even better, it's unique, you know, because I'm this tiny character who can set things to do battle in some cases and then run away. And there's just something about it that works. It clicks. It's fun. It looks good. I have an unhinged note that I can barely decode for you in this file, which says, Echoes of Wisdom is truly the Symphony of the Night of Ender Lilies. Or like, Ender Lilies is truly the Echoes of Wisdom of Symphony of the Night. I don't even know what I meant. I kind of know what I meant, but I don't even know what I meant. But yeah, it is shocking how not disconnected I feel from the summoning gameplay, which is a very big W. So despite the fact that there's this whole summoning thing going on, like I said, it is a distinct feel, but it's mostly a moment-to-moment feel thing. Like, it affects the strategy and stuff, but you can get past that pretty quickly, and that is just kind of a Soulsy game. Like, I compare it a lot to Moonscars and the other Soulsy Metroidvanias that I haven't got very far in at all. But this one, I find, it's not quite so watch your every step or you will die kind of difficult. It's been a lot easier to start. It's like you have to manage your resources and you have to use your dodge and you have to learn the enemies, but it's not brutal. And the boss fights are fittingly challenging and epic, but not too evil or anything. So it feels like it has that Soulsy, like, you know, triumphant boss battles in a horrible world, grinding your item, whatever systems to upgrade your character. You have to learn the enemies, yada yada. Like, it's got all that, but it's a bit lighter, I would say. And, you know, that's a difficulty note, but there's a very, very big piece here too. The overall feel of the game and the sound design. So it's got this hand-drawn art style and everything, and, you know, generally I like a lot of what's going on, but the sound design sometimes makes it feel like my attacks are these very gentle things, which is kind of based, but kind of disappointing in a way. Like, it sometimes feels like I'm battling paper with paper, and then it gets a little bit worse with just how wet everything is. Like, these are dead, dank corpses, and you can just hear it. Like, every attack is like, and it's like a little bit much for me. It feels like I'm doing damp paper mache battles sometimes, which again, is a distinct feel, but yeah. Like, again, making the whole game feel kind of airy is based, but I don't know that I'm super into what I'm feeling, especially with like the goopy gloppy sounds. It's just kind of my note on how all of that comes together. All of that, however, is pretty secondary to the real strengths of the game, which would be the world. And oh, what do you mean by that? The world? Is there like a double jump? Oh, I've been made to play so many games that have double jumps. Oh, do you have to backtrack? Do you have to backtrack once you get certain items? Oh no, kill me now. I have such bad Metroidvania fatigue. The reason that exploration is good in this game is because every single goddamn room feels like it was handcrafted. Like, it feels like somebody sat down and spent an entire day in the office just carving out every single room. Each room got its own fucking day. That was the whole development process for this member of the team. I don't know. They allocated so much to making every room so beautiful, with its own assets in the background, its own little, just tiny details, trees. The water is illegally pretty, and it streams down in all of these different ways, and it's just incredible. Like, I have such a vivid memory of where things are on the map, not because of the exploration gameplay, but just because I liked them so much. Like, they're sad and everything, but like, they left such an impression. I can tell you right now, there's a shack up in like the go right and then go up part of the first couple areas, like if after you leave the beginning area, and in that shack you fight the sub boss, which is the crow, which I'll talk about. And then if you leave, backtrack down to the fork in the road, you go down to where the ranged attackers are with their magic and everything. There's trees, and it gets a bit wetter, and then it gets wetter and more tree-ish, and wetter and more tree-ish, until it is just this magnificent water world that I cannot tell you enough good things about. The rooms in between are kind of whatever, but the world as an artistic being, like the world as a gigantic painting, that is something to write home about. That is just unbelievably strong. I think the real point I want to make here is that everything in this game feels very taken care of, and I will say sometimes that's not the combat. It's not that like the combat is always mind-blowing and carefully crafted, like a Mega Man game or something where every room's dance, the steps you have to do to get through every room are very carefully considered. This game specs a lot more into the softer stuff. Like, for example, I believe that there's a unique song for every major boss fight. I can't tell you for absolute certain, but I'm pretty damn sure. I'm looking at the soundtrack, I can map this to that. Every boss, I think, is really given its own moment. Not only is it placed into the world building and the story of the environment where you fight it, but it gets its own song. And, the fights themselves are very fun. I think they're the highlights so far for the combat, and you can replay them at higher difficulties, yada yada, 2 phases, that kind of thing. But I think the song speaks a bit louder. I think it's really cool that they decided to make unique songs for every boss. And similarly, I've been noticing that, as I alluded to, there's a kind of monster collecting element where it seems like nearly every common enemy has a sub-boss variant somewhere where you can fight it, and it has a unique name because in this world, every monster, I believe, is a normal person that has been turned into monster in their zombie state or whatever. So like there's the tiny goop glop monster that leaps at you. Well, eventually you meet one and fight it, and you learn its story is that it's like a little boy or something. Then there's a crow that I think does ranged attacks or dives at you or something. He does ranged attacks when he works for me. You meet him in his shack, and he's like the merchant. He's like some man that was coming home to his wife and died or something. So every single common enemy is given the care to function as part of your party, It goes from like the slime monster to a little boy to part of your arsenal. So, don't sleep on those. I mean, maybe they're not all recruitable, but little things like that make me go, oh, sorry, I forgot to cherish you. Let me do that now. Let me do that now that I've met one of your kind. So like, it's been said many times, many ways, but my appetite for dark fantasy and sad piano isn't huge. Like, I don't come home after work and boot up Dark Souls 3 and play my 7th hardcore plus star file with my friends. Like, I don't. Like, I make a lot of Castlevania videos, but Castlevania is like, it's like a B plus tier for me. Like, I'm a big fan. A lot of autism goes into the B plus tier. I can make a lot of feelings about those, but like, you know, I'm not like living and breathing dark fantasy. And I think part of my burnout that was caused by these games, Order of Ecclesia and Ender Lilies, is just, you know, I'm kind of a Nintendo person. I used to be a Nintendo person. This whole dark, brooding, like, thought-provoking thing, it's kind of new, but Ender Lilies has been really helping me sink into that. And the big part of it is, again, just the depth. I mentioned before that I liked Lily's character design, and it's not just the contrast, it's also that under her bangs, there's like this red stone, and I don't know a lot about the story, but again with the symbolism, like, this stone is part of her, like, soul power, and it has a kind of grotesque look. It has a bit of like a unnatural, like, it's like a stone, and her forehead is like, it's kind of like veiny kind of around the stone, so it looks like it's a bit painful, maybe? I'm not sure, but it's a very big contrast with the rest of her design, and that is something that, you know, is often on my mind when I'm playing. Like, you know, she's hiding the pain of being whatever the fuck she is. I don't know how deep the story goes, but with those little symbolic elements, I'm like, ooh, you really care. Like, you give a shit. Like, you give a shit about this character. I think the red stone on her forehead, whatever it actually means, really hooked me, because I was like, oh wow, this was already a neat concept, like being a tiny summoner character. But the fact that they're hiding additional layers, and I've heard that there might be even more ways that, like, her progression as a character manifests into her design, that's just really, really cool. And going off of that, the whole witch bottle area, I don't really know what to call it. It's like the witch dungeon, the witch coven, the water area I was alluding to, that one, holy nuance, holy artisanship, like, wow. That area, you walk in and it brings in a couple elements, like, oh, there's magicians, great. There's water, wonderful, we've had that. Then the purples come in. There's like kind of willowy trees, or maybe Fujis, I don't know, what are those bastards called in English, I don't know. There's like this beautiful bench where everything behind you is a beautiful purple tree of some kind, and that's wonderful. The purples and the blues, that's a great contrast with the rest of the map, and it's just beautiful. It's just wonderful. The water is so gentle. And then you go past that and you get to the actual drowned lab. And this is one of my favorite things I've ever seen in a Metroidvania. There are these reverse water columns. They're like waterfalls, but they're going up. And they're brilliantly, like, silver to kind of set them apart from the rest of the water, and you use them as a gameplay mechanic. They bring you back up if you get into them, and you can swim in them later, but they're just, when I saw them, I had to just stop and take it in. Like, how the fuck did you think of that? Like, where did you grow up that there's reverse waterfalls? Like, I think that's just kind of the fantasy element that is lacking in some fantasy games. Like, sometimes fantasy means medieval European, go to all the places Bilbo went to. Sometimes fantasy means use your damn imagination, and there's a lot of imagination in this game. And I'm not even saying, like, oh, it's so deep, it's so blah, 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 blah. I'm just saying, like, somebody gave a shit about this game, and they want you to give a shit about this game. Playing that area, the music goes so hard. It's also a big contrast. The boss was pretty cool. I thought her whole concept was cool. You fight her in like a drowned library where she was desperately trying to learn something to save the people, and then the water came in. The water came in from the ceiling, and that's so scary. And then you remember that you've been going lower and lower and lower the whole time you've been going through the area. So everywhere you've been, there's been water. Everywhere you've walked in this area, that's the pressure, that's the weight, that's the literal water that breaks in and kills her. That's how she died. That's awesome. That rips. That's really cool. If that happens in Dark Souls, I'll see you in 3 years. I'll be there. I will have a Dark Souls phase. I was just really touched, on every level. It's pretty, it's fun, it stands out, it seems like it was very imaginatively made. It was exciting to play. I just thought that the witch bottle area, the water witch area, went so hard. And looking at the other things in the game that I like, it's not surprising. It's not surprising that something this cool would be in the game, and it has my hopes up really high. So I can't really do a natural transition after that to my next chunk of recording, because I realized that the upwards waterfall is unnaturally flowing upwards because it's magical. It's in the witch area. It's the magic water. Oh, Melovania, why? Why is it going upwards? Why would somebody do that? I am an expert on Ender Lilies lore. I've played for 4 hours. That is what the witch boss was trying to create to save the kingdom. She was trying to put the water back up into the air because it was killing everyone. Or at least because her coven was getting flooded. It's been a little while since I played this level. I realized that. I'm like, oh my god, it's going up because it's magic. And that's probably what she was working on. That was her saving grace. She was trying to use that to save the day. Holy shit. So moving on to the final section, it's just gonna be stupid fluff from now on. I'm just in my vibes. My quote here that I was gonna say is that this is not just a game you should have on your wish list and then gobble up when a Steam sale comes by and then play in like 8.5 hours and then write a review like, that was a very good Metroidvania. I quite liked the combat. Like it just doesn't really fit in with the rest of the genre because its strengths are not gameplay. And I'm not saying that the gameplay is bad. I haven't played enough of it. What I'm saying is that like it's being artsy. It's an artsy game, and it's really succeeding. I can only really compare its atmosphere to Animal Well because they're the two games where I sit down and I'm just hit by so much like tenderness and nuance that I have to like process it. I have to like step away. I have to write a poem, or not write a poem, not that pretentious. I have to like play music or read a poem or something. Like as soon as I played Animal Well, and I mentioned this in the Pulse video, as soon as I played it, I had to go read Mary Oliver poems, and I hadn't done that in years. One of my favorite things. But the delicateness, I'm like, shit, delicate. That's crazy. I love that concept. Ender Lilies is so delicate. The character Lily is so delicate. You are moving so gently through the world, and it is made so carefully with these delicate hands that it just sparkles. It sparkles with care, and I don't think that it's like some masterpiece or anything because, the gameplay has just been good so far. It's just been like solid, but like, I could gush to death about how much it specs into things that are usually kind of just frosting, music, visuals, story, lore, symbolism. That's frosting for most games. That's not what most people are speccing into with their games. It's great if you have it. A lot of games have it and good gameplay, but it's not, it almost has the strengths of like a I don't know, artsy depression side scroller or something. It's maybe a merger of a decent Metroidvania and an artsy depression side scroller at risk of way overselling it. I don't know. I do like those games, the artsy depression side scrollers, but my final point here that I wanted to say is it feels like the Ender series is a big deal. It feels like that. I wanted to do something for Ender Magnolia, but I haven't needed to because it's getting really good reviews. Again, like not mind-blowing, top of the line or anything, but it's reviewing really well. And what's cool is that a lot of people are saying that Ender Magnolia hits on a lot of the things that Ender Lilies wasn't very good at. And, I don't know how they connect. I don't know how good the story even is, but it's really exciting to know that, as I was talking about with Earthblade, it's really nice to know that two different complementary games can sit and complement each other like that, and we can just play them forever. They might be the only Ender games ever, don't push yourself, but to have a game that people already raved about and then go and make another one, and then instead of fantasy, it's like sci-fi, like that's more my shit, by the way. That's more my shit, and it seems, again, very inspired, and I have a lot of hopes for that game. I'm not gonna rush it. I'm not gonna rush getting to it or anything, but it feels special. Ender Lilies is special, and it seems like they might be quite special together. And because I've just been gassing it up hopelessly, and this is just getting so freaking fancy. I wanted to finish with this story that I actually ended up saving for the end. I thought I would slip it in sooner, but Ender Lilies has kind of been a bit of a journey for me. Not even like, oh, it was on my radar in 2021. It's been a bit of a journey for me because besides the burnout, besides yada yada, the Melovania history, I randomly in August was like, I want to listen to the Ender Lilies soundtrack. I wasn't planning on playing it anytime soon. I sometimes saw a physical copy of it at the store, which was on my mind, but I wasn't thinking about it. But I just had this particular mood. I was like, I need like a peaceful, kind, dark soundtrack. I didn't even know if it was on Spotify, but I Googled it at work, and yeah, it was right there. So I was like, why not? I'll just listen to the Ender Lily soundtrack for a bit. And it was cool. I'm like, yeah, this kind of goes hard. Pretty good stuff. A couple weeks later, I got a concussion. It was a really embarrassing concussion. And I was so mad at myself. I literally was bending over to put my phone in the charger, and then I stood up too fast. And I was under my doorknob. So I got a concussion off a doorknob, which is really embarrassing, and it was even more embarrassing to translate into Japanese to tell my boss why I was dizzy and to explain to the doctor. But it was like, you know, CAT scan, nothing major, just chill out for a bit, but I definitely felt it. So I was lying down, I didn't have anything to do, all of my hobbies are like screens, and all I could really do was listen to the Ender Lilies soundtrack for a bit. And I'm not gonna like wax poetic and be like, and it's the best soundtrack I've ever heard, like, yeah, it's got a couple bangers and stuff, but I definitely had like a special moment with it, and it was nice. It was a nice little company in that time. It was really, really nice company. And then kind of pivoting to something a bit more, I don't know, like actually review related, besides like, oh, it's a special game, let it into your life, adopt it, give it a collar and a food bowl. I found at the end of that soundtrack, there's a song called, oh, I've never said this word out loud, Bulbul or something, Bulbul. Shit, I really have no guess at all how to say that word. There's a vocal track. It's a full vocal track. It's like a full-on song. And I was like really blown away. I'm like, shit, that's awesome. Like that was kind of one of the hooks that got me. I'm like, they wrote lyrics? They wrote like a whole poem for her. Like, holy crap, go Lily, rip it up. Like I thought this song was so good. It made me cry. It's gut-wrenching. It's a gut-wrenching song. And it's so beautiful. And it was like my anthem during the fall. Like it was one of my favorite songs. It just hit a particular mood. It was perfect. And funny enough, there was a separate song that I heard from like some Ghost in the Shell project that hit a very similar, like sad but empowering kind of vibe. And it was also one of my anthems. And clearly I was living in a cloud for all of the fall because I didn't realize the vocalist was the same on both tracks. Her name is like Millie or something. She's apparently pretty popular. I have no idea who this person is, but not once did I stop and go, oh my god, the sad Ender Lily song is the exact same voice as the sad Ghost in the Shell song. My brain exploded. So at first I thought that maybe they just like brought somebody in who could sing because like they wanted to have Lily sing. And that felt a bit more special to me. The fact that it's like a collab or like they commissioned Millie, I'm like a little bit torn on because it seems like she does songs for all kinds of things, which makes it be like, was it like kind of like a publicity thing? I don't really know. But like if you don't think of it cynically at all, it's seriously beautiful. And whoever this person is, I owe her one because she makes such lovely and gut-wrenching little vocal performances. Like I really quite like her voice. That's just neither here nor there. But you know what? Maybe that fits into the video because this is my pulse on the game, and it's very personal, and I think this has the potential to be a very, very personal game. So go pick it up at your nearest small living art piece adoption center. It's really cool. It's really, really cool. I'm not going to rush it. I do not want to rush it. I don't want to rush to Ender Magnolia, even though I did feel the pressure when it came out, but They just seem good. And if you didn't want to hear, like, this is a very competent Metroidvania, 8 out of 10 platforming, 10 out of 10 Pokemon Corpse Boy, like, if you wanted to hear, like, a personal kind of left hook, kind of, I'm actually going to talk about art the whole time review, I hope this put it into your brain because, again, they wanted this game to stick with you. They clearly did. It has a very cool philosophy, and boy, I hope I don't look like an idiot if it comes out to be like some kind of cynical slop job for the next 60% of it.